Have you ever pondered the depth and complexity of God's love? It's a concept that has been explored and cherished throughout history, from the earliest days of the Old Testament to the teachings of the New Testament. In the Old Testament, God's love is portrayed as steadfast and enduring. The Hebrew word chesed, denoting God's covenantal faithfulness, is a central theme. God, in his immense love, forms covenants with his chosen people, Israel. He binds himself to them, demonstrating a profound love that is not drawn out by their merit, but by his own divine grace. This love isn't one-sided or self-serving. It's a reciprocal relationship, highlighting the depth of God's commitment to his creation. The Old Testament paints a vivid portrait of a God who is not distant or indifferent, but is intimately involved with his people. His love is active, not passive. It is not an abstract concept, but a tangible reality that shapes and guides the lives of his people. As we transition into the New Testament, the concept of God's love takes on even greater depth and significance. Here, the love of God is embodied in the person of Jesus Christ. Christ's incarnation and death epitomize the selfless nature of divine love. God the Son exchanges heavenly glory for earthly servitude, laying down his life for those he loves. In this act, God's love is revealed to be sacrificial, willing to endure suffering and violence for the sake of his beloved. It's a love that seeks not just the good, but the salvation of his creation. The New Testament further emphasizes that God himself is the standard and definition of love. The Apostle John succinctly captures this when he writes in his first epistle, "God is love." This love is not just to be received, but also imitated. God calls his people to love actively and sacrificially, just as he does. To summarize, from the Old Testament's portrayal of God's steadfast and covenantal love to the New Testament's depiction of sacrificial and all-encompassing divine love, the concept of God's love is rich and multifaceted. It is a love that is active, selfless, and sacrificial. It is a love that seeks the good and the salvation of his creation. Above all, it is a love that defines who God is and calls his people to imitate. So, as we ponder the depth and complexity of God's love, we are reminded that this divine attribute is not just a theological concept, but a reality that shapes our lives and our relationships. It calls us to love as God loves, actively, selflessly, and sacrificially.